million of them are not connected to the electricity grid.
Many Ethiopians we talked to are very passionate about the construction of the dam. They, from all walks of life, raised money to go towards the construction of the dam. We went to villages where people have never had electricity, industries that have been affected by frequent power cuts, and they told us that they're eagerly waiting for the benefits of the dam.
Officials from Sudan, Egypt, and Ethiopia say there is no appetite for an outright water conflict and have expressed willingness to go back to talks. They are all in consensus that a binding legal document is needed on how what is to be the largest hydroelectric power dam in Africa will be operated. The problem has always been the detail in that agreement. Catherine Zoe, Al Jazeera, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Sudan is warning its ability to grow food will be badly hit by the dam, with 20 million people set to suffer. As Hibba Morgan reports from Al Baghair on the Blue Nile, most of them are farmers with land along the river.
Normally around this time of the year, Abdul Karim Hussein's farm in Sudan's Blue Nile state, near the border with Ethiopia, has more fruits. But the farmer says the past year has been different than previous years, and he blames it on changes in the Blue Nile River just meters away.
We lost the silt we get from the river. Every year the river comes from the Ethiopian highlands carrying a lot of silt. It's good for our river irrigated farms because it changes the soil, but the past year has brought less silt because of the Renaissance Dam storing water, and we don't know if we'll get it this year.
Abdul Karim's farm is one of hundreds of thousands of acres in the state that lie along the banks of the Blue Nile and depend on the river for irrigation. But the Ethiopian Renaissance Dam being built upstream on one of the two sources of the river is raising concerns. It's said to be Africa's largest hydroelectric dam upon completion, and Ethiopia says it'll lift more than half of its population out of poverty. But in downstream Sudan, farmers fear it will reduce their productivity. Mohammed Mustafa's farm lies nearly 500 kilometers down the river, near the Sudanese capital Khartoum. He says even he has noted changes in the soil since the first filling of the Ethiopian Renaissance Dam.
The effects of the Renaissance Dam have been bad for us. If there is no silt, then there will be no farming because we need it for the soil. Last year there was very little silt, and so we couldn't farm crops. And where we farmed, the crops died because of soil quality.
Talks to reach a deal about the filling and operation of the dam have repeatedly failed. Sudan says information sharing is critical during this process. Sudan's government says nearly 5 million people suffered the impacts of the first filling of the Ethiopian Renaissance Dam that was completed last year without an agreement. This year, the government says 20 million people, or half the population, will be affected. That includes not only farmers along the Nile, but millions of people who rely on the river for their water supplies. That's because, unlike last year, when 4.9 billion cubic meters of water was stored, the second filling is expected to store 13.5 billion cubic meters. Those who rely on the Nile for water are afraid of shortages after last year's filling created problems for some water treatment plants. The Renaissance Dam's environmental impact is also yet to be fully revealed. Those who rely on the river for other means of livelihood say changes in the past year have affected their trade.
We rely on mud, silt and water from the Nile to make bricks. The most important is silt because it's what keeps the materials together, otherwise it's just a block of mud. But silt has reduced since last July. That's meant bricks of lower quality which we have to sell cheaper.
The third phase of filling the Renaissance Dam is scheduled to happen next year. No new rounds of talks have been announced yet, but for many, like Abdul Karim, the hope is that something is worked out before the changes to their farms become irreversible. Hibba Morgan, Al Jazeera, Al Baghair, Sudan.